I'm Greg Garbos of Four Season Tools. We're here on North Haven Island off the coast of Maine, and we're going to talk about the small parts that go inside of your high tunnel. There's a lot of different parts, so it's nice to find a space so you can get it all organized. The more organized you are, the better the whole entire project will go. We're inside of one of our 30 by 48 high tunnels that's being used as a stationary plant house. We've got some nice bench space here, so all of our tools and our parts are nicely laid out. So let's start talking about some of the different parts that are used in building high tunnels. These are used all over the place. They're called brace bands. We have two different sizes. We have a 2 3/8 inch brace band and a 1 3/8 inch brace band. They're used in different locations depending on the diameter of pipe that you're going around. The 2 3/8 inch brace band is used where the brace is attached to your hoops, which are 2 3/8 inches, and the 1 3/8 inch brace band are used where brace is attached to 1 3/8 inch pipe. Both of these use the same type of bolt. This is a carriage bolt. Since the brace band has a square hole in it, the carriage bolt can slide inside the hole, and that allows you to tighten it just with one wrench from one side. Since it's a 5/16 inch bolt, you'll use a 1/2 inch deep drive when putting together the carriage bolts. So those are brace bands. Another part that we have are pipe straps. This pipe strap right here allows you to attach a pipe into a flat surface. So this is used whenever you're going to be attaching your baseboards or your hip boards, your lumber, onto your sidewall hoops. It's also used to attach your double plastic attachment channel when you have a metal hip board or a metal baseboard. When attaching it to wood, you use a 5/16 inch lag bolt. When you attach it to metal, you use a 1/4 inch hex bolt that goes in and slides into the back of that channel. This particular type of pipe strap has a hole in the side for putting a self-tapping screw into the hoop once it's installed. Another part that we use a lot of is cross connectors. These are two different sizes of cross connectors. We have 2 3/8 by 1 3/8 inch cross connectors and 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 inch cross connectors. The only difference is what size hoops they go around. This is used when you're attaching your purlins to a structure. The 2 3/8 by 1 3/8 attaches the purlins to the hoops, and the 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 attaches the purlins to your collar ties. The bolt that's on here is a 1/4 inch bolt, so you're going to use a 7/16 inch deep socket when you're tightening these. It's also a carriage bolt and it has a square hole, so it slides inside that square hole and allows you to tighten it from one side. I think it's a lot easier to slide your cross connectors onto your structure before you slide the pipes through than it is to take them apart and then put the hardware back on again. While we're talking about attaching purlins to our structure, it's important to talk about how we attach purlins to our end wall hoop. A lot of companies take your purlin pipes and they attach it either with an aluminum cross connector which can bend, or they use a pipe strap and self-tapping screws. With severe wind, that wind can push the end wall in and just shear those screws right off. So we use a 1-foot purlin end that's flattened on one side with 2 holes and swaged on the other end. That allows us to go to our end wall hoop, attach it using our brace bands, and we actually bolt our purlin ends onto our end wall hoops. When we bolt that together, it makes for a much stronger connection for our purlins to our end wall hoops. We talked about some of the different types of bolts. We talked about the carriage bolts. There's another, the two different carriage bolts that we primarily use is the 5/16 inch carriage bolt for our brace band bolts. We also use a 3/8 inch by 1 inch carriage bolt for our track connectors when we're putting our two pieces of V-track together. So the 5/16 inch carriage bolts use a 1/2 inch deep socket, and the 3/8 inch use a 9/16 socket. We also use several hex bolts for the structure. There are different sizes that we use for different applications. The smallest ones we use are a 1/4 inch hex bolt. This is used to attach the double plastic attachment channel to either our pipe straps, and it's also used in a couple other applications. Then we have 3/8 inch bolts. We use a lot of these. I just dropped it. We use a lot of these when we're bolting together our peak vents, or we're using them for pivot bolts in our different vents and for our metal end walls. The largest bolt that we use is a 1/2 inch by 6 inch hex bolt. This replaces the axle for the V-track rollers. It's a heavy duty, it's a grade 5 bolt because we want a nice strong bolt where we're attaching our rollers to our structure, and we put this on with a lock nut. There's two different types of nuts that we typically use. We use a regular hex nut for bolts that come in and out, and we use a lock nut for ones that are permanently staying in place. We also use different styles of eye bolts in the structure. So here's a couple of the different eye bolts. There's a difference between the forged eye bolts, are the ones that are cast as a single piece that can take a lot more force than there are to our zinc eye bolts, which are formed and bent into place. So the forged eye bolts can take almost 20 times the force of the other one. This zinc eye bolt right here is 4 inches long, and this is what we're going to use when we attach our ropes through our different vents. We also use some 1-inch hex bolts for some of the other applications, like our wind rope on our ridge vents and on some of our sidewall ventilation. When we talk about the length of the eye bolts, we're referring to the thread length, not the entire length of the eye bolt. These two forged eye bolts are used for different applications. Sometimes they come with the nuts on them and sometimes they don't. This small one here with the tiny threads in the shoulder, this is, we call a 3/8 inch anchor eye, and this is used when we're attaching our anchor points to our V-track. We also use several of these 3/8 inch by 4.5 inch forged eye bolts. They have a shoulder on them also. This is used to go into our sidewall hoop to attach our cable anchors when we're anchoring either a V-track or a pipe skid tunnel. It's also used to attach our baseboards on the outside of the tunnel for exterior anchoring. When a lot of our anchoring is used, we're also using a lot of different types of turnbuckles. For example, when this comes out of our baseboard, we're going to use this yoke-to-yoke turnbuckle to attach it to the earth auger on the outside of the structure. So this yoke-to-yoke turnbuckle is called that because it's got a Y on both sides with a bolt that goes through it. One of these ends of the turnbuckle is right-hand thread, the other is left-hand thread. So when you open it up or when you close it, it'll spin in opposite directions and allow the whole thing to tighten or close as one assembly. So this goes from our forged eye bolt down and will catch the top of our earth auger, which is screwed into the ground for our exterior anchors, typically every 24 feet on the outside of the structure.